that this is the season of spirits, we will, in keeping with that theme, now remind you that the title of this transmission is Ghosts. Now, we do not necessarily say this to make you feel spooky or scared, but to simply go through all the different ways in which individuals that are physically alive may experience what they perceive to be ghosts. So we will start with the idea that is more traditional, in the sense of a spirit that is capable of lowering its vibration enough to be perceived by the senses of the living, that you typically refer to as a ghost, a spirit, when it appears in your world, in your reality. The idea being that spirits who pass over, as you say, who die, who transition, may not always go all the way for a variety of reasons. Some may have unfinished business on earth. Some, because of their belief systems, may not have had a particular expectation or assumption of what they would experience in the so-called afterlife, and thus be a little bit confused about where they are. Some even may not even know they're dead and are wandering, looking for reasons why no one can hear them or see them. But now and then, either due to a lowering of their vibrational frequency, sort of similar to the idea of invisible ultraviolet light lowering its frequency to become visible as part of the visible spectrum of light, going down into violet and blue and so on and so forth. If they lower their frequency, they may become visible to those in the physical realm, or those in the physical realm may have enough sensitivity to perceive that spirit, even though it may not always be visible to everyone. But for some reason, they are still closely connected energetically to the physical realm of Earth, due to some of the reasons we have said or other reasons, and thus are still in their mind living among you, wandering among you, occupying the old houses, so on and so forth, what you typically refer to as a haunting, which doesn't in any way, shape, or form have to be malicious. Simply another person in another state, living in a place among the living. But the idea is that in seeing these beings, there is no way without communicating with them to know the reason why they may still be in what is referred to as the lower astral realm, very close to the vibration of physical reality, lowering their vibration enough to be perceived by physical beings. And this is the older and original definition of an exorcist, sort of a spirit psychologist, to communicate, find out why that being is in that state, why they're still lingering around Earth, which doesn't always have to be for a negative reason. Sometimes, when spirits cross over, and they act, in a sense, as guardians, spirit guides, for those who are still living, there may be reasons why they can learn to lower their vibration, to interact with the living in certain ways, even to the degree of appearing solid as a living physical being. This takes some skill and some practice on the part of spirits to do this, because once you are in spirit and in that high frequency vibration that is generally invisible to the living, it is actually not as natural for a spirit to go back down into the lower vibrations and become perceivable to the living. But there are those who may have reason to do so, to appear to the living in certain ways, to deliver messages, or perhaps as a protector, to alert living people to certain ideas, certain situations and circumstances, be it dangerous or not. So those spirits may have a high degree of need to lower their vibration to interact with the living and be perceived as living people until such time as they raise their vibration again and vanish before your eyes. And so there may be great need to do this, or they may simply have chosen to practice the ability of raising and lowering their vibration in order to interact with the living for a variety of their own reasons, or agreements they may have made with the living people with whom they interact. Now, beyond the idea of it actually being a spirit, a ghost per se, that you're interacting with, that is live in real time, as you say, there may be other effects that exist that can be interpreted as seeing a ghost. And one of them is the idea that in the fabric of space-time, everything is recorded. You might say, again, as people on your planet often name it, the Akashic records have a kind of video sort of ability to record things as well as audio or pure information. And all that information is available here and now because everything exists here and now. So again, for those that might be sensitive enough, might extend their senses far enough vibrationally to pick up on certain things that may have happened, linearly speaking, in the past, and perceive the recording, it's etched itself into the fabric of space and time. They may be seeing a recording of sorts, an echo of sorts of things that have been, or even will be, in your linear framework, and perceive that as a living ghost, even though it is simply an echo, a recording, something etched into the fabric of space-time, and is no longer actually present. These kinds of perceptions will usually appear to be repeatable. In other words, a person may say, oh yes, this place is haunted, and at midnight, every 3 days, you see this woman walking down the hallway into this room, and so on and so forth. And if that keeps repeating, it might not be what would be termed a living presence. It might actually be a recording, repeating over and over again when the conditions are right to trigger it, or when the conditions are right in a person's senses to perceive it. So a lot of things that repeat themselves that way may actually not be a living presence. It might be, but it may not be, because it could simply be etched into the fabric of space-time and repeating on a loop. Another way that people might perceive the idea of a ghost that is not a ghost in the classic sense is the idea of peering into parallel realities. Sometimes the so-called barriers between one reality and another will overlap, will weaken, will align vibrationally in some way, shape, or form to allow a person from your reality to actually perceive, although perhaps faintly and dimly, people in other realities. And therefore, in suddenly seeing an apparition wandering through your reality, you might perceive it or think it to be a ghost of someone who has passed over, but in fact you are actually seeing a faint representation of a person in another reality who is just going about their business, but may seem to you to be a ghost. And they may be able to perceive you that way at that moment as well, and go back to their friends and family with tales of having seen this ghost. And they're just describing you, because again, the veils between the different realities may have weakened for some reason at that point, because these fluctuations do often happen. There are doorways and portals that open to different dimensions on a regular basis, and some of them are random, and sometimes these openings and closings can allow one in your reality to peer into other realities temporarily until they close again. And sometimes these are interpreted as spirits and ghosts when they are not, in the classic sense, such a thing. But the idea of this season is to allow yourself to open up to the potential communication that can exist between you and spirits, spirit guides, family members who may have passed on, soul family groups who may never have even incarnated. It is the ability of your senses to stretch into that realm, especially if someone close to you has died, and is encouraging you to stretch your senses to connect with them in the spirit realm. This is the perfect season and timing to allow yourself to practice this. And this will be the subject of our meditation today, to give you an opportunity to do so. So, allow yourselves during your Halloween season, while having fun, playing scary, while having fun being spooked out, while having fun imagining all sorts of strange apparitions and so on and so forth. Keep in a corner of your mind the realization that this, in the vibrational cycles of Earth, is also when the veils are thin between the physical and the non-physical. Because remember, the physical is just a projection of consciousness. You yourselves, in a sense, are projections of consciousness as physical beings. So you yourselves, in a sense, are all ghosts, because your natural state is as a spirit, and you are just pretending to be in a physical, solid reality. So you are all ghosts in physical reality, which itself is a ghostly apparition of a consciousness idea that you are exploring. So in remembering that, it can amplify your ability to remember that all of these spirits are right with you and you are right with them, still in spirit with them, while dreaming that you are not. Allow yourself the opportunity to feel that and maintain that connection and increase that connection between yourself and the spirit realm, becoming more lucid and conscious about the fact that physical reality is, in a sense, just an apparition that you're playing around in. And allow yourself this opportunity, because as we do approach the idea of the window of contact and the increase in the splitting prism into different parallel versions of Earth, maintaining and increasing your connection to the spirit realm that you occupy now, right now, as your natural state, will serve you in a variety of ways that we will go into the closer we approach to the beginning of the window of open contact. And serve you with the idea of making contact, because many extraterrestrial beings are extra-dimensional beings and actually have attributes, just as our civilization does, of both physicality and spirit. And thus, the stronger you connect to the fact that you are a spirit, as you say, not so much a human having a spiritual experience, but a spirit having a human experience, you can identify with us more strongly every day and allow the idea of open contact to be a broader experience with many different kinds of beings who are not just physical extraterrestrials in the way that you think of us, but occupy many different dimensional planes just as you do, who are simply aware of the occupation of those planes just as you can become. And therefore blending and melding and merging the idea of physical and spirit in a way that allow you a great deal of freedom, a great deal of expression, and a great deal of being your true self and expanding what that really means in your world. So be the ghosts in this season that are physical, and have fun when we do our meditation to expand your senses and stretch your senses into the realm of spirit. About exactly what kind of theme you will be exploring, and the theme is generally the person that you are. The challenges that come up are representative of the theme that the personality you've created yourself to be needs to explore. So that theme can seem like destiny, because you can't necessarily change that until you finish that theme, but you have free will within that destiny, within that theme. As we have often used the analogy of a hallway, saying that from a spirit level, a higher level, you have chosen a particular hallway that you will walk down. That's your theme. That's your path. That's who you are. Being who you are in this life experience is the theme, is the destiny. But how you are who you are is up to your free will. Again, going back to the hallway analogy, you will walk down the hallway. That's your destiny. You made that choice from the free will of a higher level. But within the hallway, you are completely free to decide how you will walk down the hall. You can walk, you can run, you can fly, you can crawl, you can be happy, you can be sad, you can look in every doorway along the way, you can ignore them all, you can go upside down, backwards, inside out, whatever way you wish to do it. That's your free will exploring the theme you set up for yourself. So your physical life is a combination of a so-called theme or destiny and free will in terms of how you explore it.
And so I know I have a question about this. So when we experience going down our hallway, and you've brought up the idea of surrendering to your flow, what
Yes.
exactly are you describing that we're surrendering to?
You are surrendering to the vibrational state of the theme itself. In other words, you're in total acceptance of who you are as the theme.
So when you make the choice to surrender to the way your life is unfolding and to
Yes.
trust that it's unfolding in a beneficial way to you, even if it's not exactly what you prefer, you're
Yes. So this is where the free will and the destiny merge. In other words, you are presented with certain things in that hallway, because that's the definition of that hallway. That's the definition of the challenges that expose the theme, reveal the theme. But the idea is that you still get to decide how you will engage with that. So the surrendering to it and the acceptance of your true self is the idea of engaging with the theme in a positive and constructive way. Again, this is the fourth part of the formula. Choose to remain in a positive state because you understand that no matter what happens, even if you recognize it neutrally as something you don't prefer, still it's got to be there for a reason. It's got to be part of the exploration of your theme. And if you engage that exploration of something you don't prefer from a positive point of view, from a positive state of being, you'll be able to go with a flow of using it and getting a benefit from it in a way that will serve you, because you know it's got to be there for a reason that could serve you, if only you will stay in the positive state that will allow you to experience how it could be used to a positive effect in your life. Because again, remember, it comes down to not mattering really what it is that happens, but mattering what you do with what happens. So staying in a positive state will allow you to get a benefit out of what happens, even if you don't prefer it. Whereas going into a negative state will only allow you to feel blocked by what happened instead of being more capable of using it to your advantage. Because remember, even on the simplest level, experiencing something you don't prefer, if you stay in a positive state, will allow you to recognize, if nothing else, that you've been given an opportunity to see what you don't prefer so that you can understand what you do prefer more clearly by contrast. And that's a positive way to use what you don't prefer. And when you use it up, when you learn the lesson of why it's there from a positive point of view, most likely it will fade away because it has now served its purpose and you can continue to move forward. Whereas if you give it a negative meaning, this doesn't belong in my life, this is not what I wanted, something is wrong, then all you're doing is creating a vibration that sticks you firmly right there in that position in the hallway until you get the point of why it happened to begin with and what you can learn from it and how it can benefit you by being there.
So even if you experience some form of loss, if you have the basic understanding that everything happens for a positive reason, and you allow
Everything
your
can be used
in a
in a
positive
positive
way.
way. I just said it's there for a reason.
Right.
It's up to you to determine what that reason is.
And then that allows you to stay in touch with your own flow and
Yes.
see how that can be a beneficial experience, even if you didn't enjoy having it initially.
Well, again, it's not about not enjoying it. It's about recognizing that it can be used to your benefit. And if you recognize that more quickly and more quickly and more quickly, then you simply come from a neutral, balanced state, and you can actually then start to enjoy anything that happens, even if it's what you don't prefer, because you will know you can use it in a way that you would enjoy to.
And it really can show you that something better can happen. Like it will
Yes.
bring up things like that. Like,
Yes.
oh, well, this was going to be the best thing that, and actually, by trusting that if negative synchronicity is serving you,
Yes.
by not allowing you to have a certain experience that you thought you wanted,
Correct.
then
It's guiding you through the idea of not only giving you opportunities you can act on, but guiding you by preventing you from being able to act on certain things that is simply not your path right now.
and then your trust in the unfoldment of your life and how your flow goes
Yes.
will make all the difference in the world as you're
Yes.
experiencing these lessons, so to
And
speak.
as you become used to this and it becomes your first nature, then it even goes beyond the idea of trust. You simply understand and know how things work. Then it's not a matter even of having to have trust in it. You simply understand that that's the way it works.
Okay, and then let's see if there's one last one to ask.
Yes.
You often say that don't invalidate what you don't prefer.
Yes, because that sticks you to it.
So when you
In other
say,
words, you're giving it energy, you're feeding it by invalidating it, because invalidation is a negative energy, and therefore it compounds the negative energy of what you don't prefer.
so when you say the word invalidate, can you express what invalidation is? Like,
Well, in a sense, it's what we just talked about. It's sort of another way of saying, this does not belong here. This has no value to me. So invalidation is discounting the value, discounting what's happening in your life as if it didn't belong. And therefore, all you're doing is reinforcing your inability to use it in a way that positively serves you.
so, and I guess
It's like
lastly,
saying, it's like saying, I see a series of stepping stones ahead of me, but one of them is a color I don't like. I don't prefer it. So I'm going to invalidate it. I'm going to say that stone has absolutely no value whatsoever. It does not belong on the path. So get rid of it. Now you have no way to step from that stone to the next one. You have literally caused yourself to invalidate your path, to remove the ability to step forward by discounting the reason that that stone, that different stone, is there, instead of using it to your advantage, saying, well, that stone is different because there must be something different I need to look at here. There must be something different I need to learn here that would actually help me then go on to the next stone. But if I invalidate it and remove it from the path, then there's too big of a gap for me to cross. There's no stone for me to step from to the next stone beyond.
and so coming back to the monologue in the beginning, essentially what you're explaining to us is how to stay in the moment
Yes.
and appreciate whatever is being generated in that moment,
Yes.
and how to be in the state where you're not invalidating what is happening.
Yes, because then you cannot use it to move forward if you invalidate it. If you say it's worthless, it has no value, it doesn't belong here, how can you use it to keep moving? You can't.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
You are also welcome.
Yeah, we really appreciate all your sharing, all the information that you give us, and giving us this boost to be able to shift to a new paradigm where we can experience physical reality in a much more positive way.
Yes, well, it is our passion and our pleasure to do so. And of course, the choice is completely up to you. So we thank you for that, our unconditional love to you all. And as another expression of our unconditional love and support, please now allow yourselves, if you wish, to enjoy the following meditation.
So I actually woke about 3 years ago, and like through a past life regression, I realized I was a mantis being.
You are what?
That I am a mantis being.
You are connecting to
Yes,
a mantis.
I am connecting to the mantis.
It's not you. You're connecting to it.
That's correct.
All right. Yes, I know that's correct.
Yes. And that I come from the Antares.
No, you don't come from.
I come from here.
You are connecting to Antares.
Yes, I'm connecting to the Antares system. So
All
I was
right.
wondering what my role is assisting humanity with actually working with the mantis beings, and if you can share with us more information that you haven't shared.
Are you following the formula?
I am.
Then you're fulfilling your role.
Okay, you should see the way I'm dressed, or feel the energy of the way I'm dressed, and we'll tell you all about it. Are you able to tell us more about them? Normally I do not dress like this, but I was called. So can you tell us more about the mantis beings?
They are the overseers of the hybridization program. Because the Greys, at one point, decided that they had to give up their emotionality and become a hive mentality in order to accomplish the task, because it was so large. They knew they needed someone to guide them. And so, in a sense, the mantis beings were, well, I'll use your word, hired to guide them. So the mantis beings are the overseers of the hybridization program.
I see. So,
They had to give up their emotionality to reclaim their emotionality in the hybrids.
and how are they assisting humanity with that project?
Am I assisting you?
Yes.
Then you know.
Perfect. Thank you.
Because my civilization is one of the hybrid civilizations that resulted from the hybridization agenda.
Okay. Fantastic. Thank you.
We are helping to make sure, of course it's your choice, you do not go down the same path that the Greys went down when they were humans on a parallel Earth where they destroyed their reality.
Got it.
Remember that the Greys are mutated humans. They're not aliens.
Yes.
They are what became of humanity on a parallel version of Earth that destroyed its environment and had to mutate to survive and could no longer reproduce, and so had to use their advanced technology to come to parallel realities such as yours, where human DNA was still viable, that they could add to their own to create hybrids to perpetuate their society.
Okay.
We are one of those hybrid civilizations, and we are helping you to, again, according to your own choices, see that you have an opportunity to not go down the same path as the Greys went down on their version of Earth.
I see. Because I feel they're extremely hard-based, and I'm like saying this very lightly because they can go deeper and deeper and deeper of the layers of the heart and explain and describe things that are so, I guess, abstract to expand our mind. They've been quite informative with my relationship, with them. So,
Yes,
yeah.
they do seem abstract to most humans in a lot of ways, but it's because of the reality that they inhabit. It doesn't always interpret straight across to the understandings of your reality. Nevertheless, they are extremely emotional beings, extremely deeply emotional intelligences, and they have a great deal of intelligence about the idea of the expressions and energies associated with different emotions, which is why the Greys utilize them as the overseers. They are the keepers of the emotions that the Greys gave up.
Amazing. Wow. Okay, perfect. I'm gonna jump to my more three-dimensional question on this planet. I have always stuttered, and I do every once in a while. I use certain words to kind of guide me from one word to another. So why did I choose as a soul like speech impediment, and how am I able to train myself and others to speak with ease?
It forces you to communicate more strongly in other ways, doesn't it?
Perfect. That's exactly what I always knew. Thank you.
Yes.
Just confirmed it. Are you able to share anything fascinating that you have not shared yet about the 13 skulls, the 13 crystal skulls?
One moment.
Sure.
Have you visited what are called the Serpent Mounds in your area of Ohio?
On my list.
Go, and when you meditate there, you may get some information from one of the skulls that is connected to that culture.
And is the skull there, or it's just there's a connection there?
The skull is instructing us to say that the word there is a relative term. Not meaning to be too cryptic, but the skulls are very cryptic.
So are they there on a different frequency and we're unable to see them?
Yes.
Understood. Fantastic. Can you give us, I guess, a step-by-step example of what the process might look like of actually becoming, I guess, a caretaker of a hybrid child from when we first meet them to everyday interaction?
At first, these sanctuaries will be somewhat isolated, and only a few humans will be allowed to interact according to the hybrid children's agenda as to what they feel comfortable or important in terms of the way that they should interact with humans at that time. Humans will synchronistically be attracted in small numbers to these sanctuaries, and over time the numbers will grow as humans and hybrids become more comfortable and familiar with one another.
I see. Perfect. And what role did the fires that just happened in Maui, I guess, play, and how can we best support the sovereignty of the land and the people in Maui?
All we can do right now is sum up the idea that you are experiencing the consequences of choices that were made that are not necessarily in alignment with stewardship of the land.
Got it. Okay. You channeled this super wise entity. I can't remember his name or its name. He was very ancient, and he's the one who went like this. He said, Mazani.
Yes, this was an Anuhet.
Anuhet.
The seventh hybrid race.
Are you able to bring him through? And
Not at this time.
Understood. Okay. This is not a question, but an invitation that came through when I was showering this morning.
The shower is often a good meditation chamber.
Yes, and driving. I would like to invite you to join hearts with me, and if you're able to channel through the praying mantis energies, any messages for...
Not at this time.
Okay.
But you will have a dream soon.
Okay. Well, I am so forever grateful, and thank you with my unconditional love.
Our deep appreciation and unconditional love to you as well. Good day.
At one of your live events in Sedona, people saw me and they thought I was the celebrity Frances Fisher, which was really awesome. But as I've traveled all over the globe, people often think I'm someone they know. In fact, I walked into a store and this gentleman walked up to me with open arms and said, Pat, and he was so happy to see me, but I wasn't Pat. And people will say to me again and again, even after we realize that I'm not the person they think I am, they'll say, but really, the way you speak and your gestures are just like this person that they know. And I'm wondering what to make of that. It feels like a compliment. It feels really nice, which is great. And maybe that's all there is. But maybe there's something more to it. I mean, when I'm connecting with people, I'm always really excited, like a like a Labrador puppy, you know, to meet people. And it feels like such a good connection, like I'm allowing all that is and source to flow through me and focus on, you know, the best in people and reflect back the best of myself, and all that feels awesome. I'm just wondering if there's something more to it or something that I could use about this thing where people think they know me. Thank you.
Well, again, the idea is that your excitement and desire to be of service in that way makes you a little bit of a chameleon. You will then take on whatever the vibration is that reflects back to them that familiarity, so they feel comfortable enough for you to communicate the energy to them that allows them to move forward in the way that they prefer to. So you're being of service by being a little bit of a reflection of whatever it is they feel they need to be comfortable in accepting that frequency within themselves so they can move forward.
Hi, Bashar.
And to you, good day.
Well, firstly, a big thank you for the opportunity to have this interaction.
And a big thank you to you as well for the co-creation of it.
Thank you. Before I'm going to ask my first question, I want to say that I understand that there are different ways to look at this, and that different individuals use different mechanisms for the creation of the experience of Alzheimer's disease.
Yes.
And you explained that in general, the majority of people that have the experience of having Alzheimer's has to do with them being in denial about their lives, that they wish to forget, that there is something in them that is to them so painful they cannot deal with it.
This is a very, very generalized response, but it is true for many people, although it is experienced in a multitude of different ways.
Okay. Because I was wondering, we call this process also dementia.
Yes.
Almost seems like the personality structure of the people going through this experience is somehow dissolving, and that they are shifting through different dimensions very rapidly.
Yes, all sorts of mental disorders that in some way, shape, or form reflect or represent an alteration of personality, be it the idea you call of dementia or Alzheimer's, or even dissociative personality disorder or schizophrenia. These things have one thing in common, in general, at their core. It is in some way, shape, or form an inability, due to either belief systems or what have you, to not allow different aspects of the personality to harmonize and blend in a coherent way for the reality that they chose to be in. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you. And I was also wondering, but what's happening on a soul level? How is the soul experiencing this process?
Well, again, it depends upon the reason why a soul may have agreed to have these kinds of experiences, or for the purposes that the soul needs those experiences, or simply in the way that the soul chooses to use them. So it will vary from soul to soul. But overall, the idea is one of seeking integration by creating dissociation, what appears to be disconnection, and then going through the process to arrive at a realization that disconnection is not real, but only an illusion. And that the paradox is, in order to actually have an experience of disconnection, you actually have to be connected. You have to be integrated to have an experience in some sense of disintegration.
Yes, I understand. And can you say that when people go through this process, that they eventually are able to look at the pain that they are, trying to avoid?
Some of them do and some of them don't. Again, it depends upon the choices that have been made for this life theme. Many of them give themselves the probability to arrive at that conclusion, but some of them choose not to, and they make their assessments in spirit after the life.
Okay. And I don't know, maybe in general, does the pain has to do with, a lack of self-worth?
It can. In general, again, a very generalized answer. Everyone will have a specific way of experiencing this if they choose to. All pain is the result, fundamentally, of resistance to the natural self.
Yeah, I understand.
Does that help?
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
I also have a couple of questions concerning the Anunnaki.
Yes.
You mentioned that the Anunnaki were the first to genetically alter the DNA of the natural evolved Homo erectus here on Earth.
Yes, because at that point, the Homo erectus was available and compatible enough through panspermia millions of years before that for them to make the alteration and find enough similarity in their genetics to do so.
I understand. And I was wondering, after the Homo sapiens came into existence, have there been other alterations in our DNA due to other extraterrestrial races?
Yes, especially the Greys.
Especially the
Although they're not really an extraterrestrial race in the classic sense.
No, I understand. But for instance, the Pleiadians or any race we know of, do they made some alterations in our DNA also?
Well, not exactly in the same context. Some have been, by agreement, an energy shift that creates an alteration in your DNA by having you be given a frequency that then you choose to align with to create the alteration. But it's not a physiological manipulation in the typical sense.
Okay, I understand. And you also mentioned that the Anunnaki evolved, but did they evolve into a non-physical?
A few of them have, but basically what you know as the Pleiadians is one of the evolutionary offshoots.
Okay. So are the Anunnaki genetically linked to other extraterrestrial races that we know of? Yeah, you just explained it.
Well, I said Pleiadian, yes.
Okay.
And others that you may not know of.
Okay. Okay. And also concerning what we now talked about, I was wondering if I'm correct in my understanding that the Greys and the human beings have the same Anunnaki ancestors, But that the genetic alteration.
Well, not exactly the same, because the Greys come from an alternate version of reality. So they had their own history of interaction with the Anunnaki, but they're not the same Anunnaki because those Anunnaki belong in an alternate parallel universe.
Okay. Okay. Because I was wondering, I read somewhere that as a result, the people who eventually evolved into the Greys had a different expression of these genetic alterations than the human beings in this timeline. But that makes
Yes.
sense. Yeah.
Although the idea is that the humans of that version of Earth didn't, quote unquote, evolve into the Greys. They mutated themselves on purpose to be able to handle the environment that existed when they destroyed their version of Earth.
Okay. Okay. Oh, I thought, it's a mutation. I thought
It's a mutation.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for this.
Yes. It is the reason why some of their DNA can be compatible with the DNA of humans on your version of Earth and other versions of Earth, is because they actually started out as human.
Yes.
Otherwise, it would be too incompatible to create hybrids.
Hybrids, yes, exactly. Thank you for this.
Yes.
That was what I wanted to ask you today. So thank you.
All right. Well, thank you. Pleasant dreams to you.
Thank you.
Understand is that the way to get over it is to realize, if you want to, that there are no negative extraterrestrials involved or engaged with your planet at this time. So, those of us that are engaged with your world and the evolution of humanity and what's going on your planet at this time, create a kind of bubble reality that is of a frequency where negative beings simply find that they are unable to perceive what's happening, unable to reach you. So even though there may be stories on your planet that sound very scary and fear-inducing, the literal truth is there are no negative entities engaged with humanity on your planet at this time. Only the stories that you make up because of the fears that come up within you, within humans, because of your exposure to higher frequencies that you simply may not yet be able to tolerate without going into survival panic mode. So it distorts the experiences in a way that creates a lot of scary stories, but the actuality is there are no negative extraterrestrial entities interacting with your planet at this time. So if you're willing to understand that, then you can get over the idea of being afraid that you will attract negative extraterrestrial entities through open contact. It simply will not occur.
Do you believe achieving contact is mainly vibration based? What is the best way to align with that frequency?
Follow the formula. Yes, of course it's vibration based. It's based on several different things, but it's also based not only on your life path, your soul's themes, but yes, physically, it's based on the idea of the upliftment of humanity vibrationally, raising your frequency to be able to meet us halfway, so to speak. So, yes.
And some of us imagine open contact involving a massive number of UFO ships appearing. However, this person had a dream that it will be different, more like floating orbs descending, carrying knowledge that could be understood telepathically while in their presence. Can you give us a hint on how that would be?
We will discuss this in the upcoming Sedona transmissions. Yes, you are right. It will not right away be hundreds and hundreds of ships because, as you say, that would freak many people out. So it will be a slow process, and what you have described to some degree is a part of it. But we will give you more specifics in the upcoming Sedona transmissions.
Are there any grays that are positively assisting us at this time? And also, if it is true that some grays are assisting us, how are they recognizable to us?
All grays are assisting you. There are no negative entities dealing with you at this time in that way.
Well, as your famous quote goes, circumstances does not create the state of being. State of being is what creates circumstances.
Yes.
I believe it to be true, but this makes me wonder how the Greys were able to create their own reality. Since the Greys gave up emotionality, how were they able to create their reality? I wonder how they were able to do this without the state of being component, let alone their technology to tunnel into other realities.
State of being does not necessarily mean primarily that it has to contain the idea of what you recognize as emotion. A hive mind mentality, a hive mind intention, hive mind focus is an extremely magnified state of being. And it is that intention and that focus of the hive mentality that they have created, even in giving up most of their emotionality, that allows them to create the reality that they are experiencing. So emotionality is not necessarily always a primary component as long as the focus and the intention supersedes it.
Speaking of the hive mentality, from a shamanic standpoint, if you were to tune into bees, what are some of the things they could help us understand about the hive mentality?
You have to look at it holistically. Again, though you experience it in linear space-time as I'm connected to this, from the hive mind, it is I am this. It's more like the idea of looking at yourself as a drop in the ocean. You understand that you can be a drop, but you understand that there really isn't a lot of differentiation between the drop and the rest of the water in the ocean. So it's something that's a more all-encompassing sense, an all-encompassing perspective. It's not that you belong to the hive, it's that you as an individual are the hive, and every individual in it sees themselves as the hive. That's why the focus and the intention and the orchestration and coordination are so automatic, and why they can act so synchronistically together, because each of them sees themselves as the hive. They have an intent, they have a focus that is shared completely by every single individual aspect of the hive, as if each individual is the hive and the only one having the intent and the focus to accomplish something.
That sounds very similar to the idea of when a human being raises their vibration in certain circumstances and actually can experience the sense of being of the collective, of that there's all these people in the collective, all these consciousnesses in the collective, but you can identify individual, you can sense they're all individual, but yet it's all one big collective consciousness experience.
Yes. Again, it is another form of absolute synchronism.
So that state of being where you're part of the collective, that would be, in a sense, very equivalent to the idea of being part of or experiencing the hive mind.
Yes. It's experiencing pure synchronicity. Everything is in lockstep. It is the intentional focus, the orchestration. It brings about the orchestration that creates everything to be exactly where it needs to be, when it needs to be there, in perfect timing. It's another way of doing it. We experience it with emotionality, but the Greys did not. But that wasn't necessary for the intention that they created. They created the reality that they needed to allow them to create the hybridization program that would allow their civilization to continue, and which you can take advantage of to allow your civilization to go in a different path than what the Greys took that destroyed their world. So that's the beneficial side effect of that harmonic, of that orchestration, is that you get to take advantage of what they're doing to preserve their own civilization, their own culture, by creating us hybrids. You get to take advantage of it so that you can decide that you have more options than they themselves saw that they had, that led them down the path of destruction, where they poisoned their version of Earth.
Great. This person is curious about the society on your home planet. What is the average lifespan of the Sasani people? Start with that.
About 300 of your years as you understand time. But that's an average. There are some that might leave sooner. There are some that are much, much older, depending upon their soul's path and what it is they need to achieve. Again, as reference, my own father, still physically alive after 1,000 years.
And the next question this questioner is asking is, do you mate for life, or do your people explore multiple relationship dynamics in the same way that we do?
We don't explore them in the same way you do. We simply receive whatever is happening as what is supposed to be happening at that moment, since everyone is telepathically bonded and everyone understands the idea of consensus, and that if you are attracted to 1, 2, 3 people in different ways for different purposes, then we let it play out. There are no assumptions, impositions, or expectations on how relationships should be. We simply let the relationships serve the purposes that they come together to serve.
And are there any limitations on how many offspring you create?
Any limitations would simply be a part of the synchronicity as to what agreements have been made in spirit as to what serves the collective best.
And finally, you mentioned that your planet Essassani is in the general area of Orion, but which star does your planet orbit? Have we already identified it? Meaning, can we see it from here?
No, you cannot. We are in a parallel reality. Our reality is invisible to you unless you actually make a vibrational shift into our reality. And what we have said is that our star system is in the direction of the Orion constellation. It's not part of that constellation, but our system is not visible to you. No stars in our reality are visible to you. There might be some stars that we share, in a sense. In other words, we have versions of those stars in our reality that you have in your reality. But the idea is that we are invisible to one another unless we make a shift into the different parallel realities. So we are 500 light years in the direction of the Orion constellation that you're familiar with. But we are not part of the Orion constellation as you would understand it.
And do the Yael have a ship over Los Angeles? And are they connected to Dolphin, Whale, Sirius Energy?
Yes, they are, and yes, they do, and they have ships over many cities.
Okay, and this question is, oh, you want to tell us any more about that?
No, thank you.
Okay. What is the color of hybrid blood and also of Yael blood?
Red. Remember, we are another version of human.
Mission, we would like to share with you the impact, the results, the effects of the change you have made in your energy shift recently, so that you may understand how you have altered the course of your own history in the future, not only with regard to the idea of open contact, but also how you can, through some very specific, simple actions, allow yourself to chart a course more clearly in the direction of the version of Earth that you prefer as you pass through this transition period over the next couple of your months into a new reality as well as a new year. So let us begin by first and foremost informing you that there will be now, in the new year, more opportunities for individuals to perceive, to experience what you typically refer to as UFO sightings, as a reflection of the shift, of the change you have now created. We understand that there may still be many processes to go through in harmonizing, settling down, getting used to the new direction, the new energy, and that's fine. And that may take a little while, but that's okay, because it's not going to stop anything from moving forward.
And one of the things that is now far more probable is the idea of open contact with your world and many other extraterrestrial civilizations. One of the things we have spoken of before is the window of contact and the timing thereof, which in general was the years of 2025 to 2033 or 2040, depending on factors that have yet to fall into place. However, now, with this new shift, this new change, this new direction of energy, new vibration, new frequency coming into play in this transition period over the next few of your months and years, our perception as the energy exists right now is that you have brought that beginning of the window back toward you to the year 2023. So you have accelerated the probability that the window of contact may happen a little bit sooner, and also created 2023 to be a new focal point for the opportunity of a few different things. Number one, you may find that there is a high degree of probability in 2023 that you will, as we have said before, discover that life is possible on other planets. And again, it may be simple life. But the idea is that, again, once you discover, once you know for a fact that life can exist on other worlds, even worlds simply in your own solar system, that will change the mindset of the people of your planet to be far more open to the idea that intelligent life and advanced technological life may exist elsewhere. You are rapidly approaching that realization, that understanding, and will soon, either slightly before or in the year 2023, most likely, most probably make that discovery as we read the energy now. Also, you may find that now that your year of 2023 is a new focal point, a new lens, gathering frequencies and information and energy to itself to amplify and magnify them, that there may be more profound, more recognizable UFO sightings in that year that may be a signal of things to come and how they are accelerating toward open contact. So watch the skies between now and then, but primarily in your year of 2023, pay attention to all ideas that have to do with the probability of life outside of your world. Now, we are also going to share with you a gift in this season of giving that will allow you to perform, if you're willing, 3 very simple acts that can have a profound effect on accelerating you into this new reality. These are fun, they're very simple, easy to do, and if you are open and willing to participate, which is up to you, you may find that you can magnify and amplify the synchronicity in your life in a variety of ways, on a variety of subjects, and a variety of experiences more than ever before as you pass through this transition time into your new year and your new reality. Riding the wave of this new energy, this shift that you have now created. Because this shift is not just in your own nation, but will have profound rippling effects across the entire globe of Earth. You will be presented with an image, a graphic, that represents these 3 little simple acts that you can do. They will be represented not only by our own energy, the energy of Willa Hilla Chrising, and also, for the first time in quite a while, the energy of Anima, one of our own counterparts on Ethasani, that is involved with social engineering, which is her passion, similar to the idea of our passion being first contact, similar to the idea of Willa's passion being the connection and expression in nature as nature. So when you see and perceive this graphic, you will understand. And we will now explain more clearly the three gifts, the three acts that you can take to expand and accelerate your experience of synchronicity and allow your life to be more full of joy and to expand your experiences to become more and more of who you are. So, first and foremost, as you can see under what we may refer to as my banner, will be the act labeled Make Contact. What this means is, wherever possible, you can allow yourself to participate in what we have already given you with regard to increasing the probability of contact with your little ET cutouts, putting them in your windows and doorways and leaving them there so that throughout the course of the day you can simply recognize that there are beings around you to help crystallize and solidify that you are never really alone in the overall sense, and that when your senses and frequencies match and harmonize with the idea of your connection to beings like ourselves and others, that you will begin to experience more interaction more consciously. But what you can also do to make contact, accelerate, increase, and take advantage of this focal point of energy building up towards 2023 is what some of you are already doing in some ways, shape, and form. Go out into the desert. Go out into the forests. Go out to the ocean. Go out to the areas that are relatively calm and peaceful and isolated, and open up to the idea of contact. You can do it through, in those areas of meditation, you can simply stare up at the stars and open your hearts and send out the invitation more strongly, more powerfully, that you truly are ready, truly open to allow contact to unfold in the way that works the best for all concerned. So go out and make contact. Begin the process in earnest. Take the time to go to those areas where you can be at peace. And you can do it alone. You can do it with a few friends. It doesn't matter. But the intention must be harmonized. The intention must be aligned that what you are doing, no matter what technique you use, using your imaginations, using your creativity, to now more than ever accelerate the idea of open contact by reaching out with your hearts, your minds, your spirits, your imagination, and send out the invitation for those to respond who are willing to assist you, to appreciate you, to love you as you assist, appreciate, and love yourselves more and more. So the first act that you can do, the first gift we are giving you in this season, is to go out and make contact from your side so that from our side we may respond more readily. The second act, as you can see from the graphic, comes from Willa Hillikrissing, 700 years in your future as you know time to exist. And her suggestion, her gift, and the act that she proposes is to go and plant a tree. The physical act of planting a tree, or, if you wish, a garden of flowers, or anything that grows in the earth, will be an act that will again connect you more strongly to your understanding of your relationship, again, not only with the concept of being in nature, but the expression of yourself as nature. You may yourself do this, although we know that some individuals may do things like donate a tree in someone's name, which is also fine. But please understand that what we are giving you here are things that require some degree of physical action for yourselves personally, so that you can make the connections that are necessary, again, to ride the wave of the shift and the change you have begun to create. Don't let the momentum slow down. These simple acts will have more profound effects than you might imagine at first, not only for yourselves individually, but for your world at large. So, the first gift, the act, the physical act of going out and in your own way, opening up and making contact. The second, planting a tree or a garden or vegetables and fruits, whatever you wish to do, but the physical act of connecting to the earth. And also, what Willa has already shared with you in terms of the rituals and processes of becoming a cryptic by being in a forest or someplace where there are groves of trees, near water, be it a stream, a river, a lake, the ocean, with your back to the tree, sitting in a comfortable position against the tree, facing the water, hearing the water, doing that cryptic meditation, that realization of reaching down into the earth with your mind, with your imagination, with your emotions, with your heart, connecting to the root system, the mycelial network that connects all the trees in the area, upon which they exchange information, support, energy, food, water, to act as one being, a collective full of unique individuals with their own unique aspects and beauty and gifts to give, and tap into that communication so that you become part of that network, part of that forest. So these things, again, the physical acts that are summed up simply by the phrase, plant a tree. And then the third gift, the third act from Anima, who again follows her passion of being a sociological engineer, which means she is understanding of the connections between the individuals in society and how to amplify and magnify them. And the simplest expression of this idea is to do a kindness for someone. Do a favor, do a kindness, be it a friend or a stranger. Again, we understand that at this time in your process you have protocols based on the idea of keeping yourselves safe during your pandemic, and we are not in any way, shape, or form asking you to violate any of those protocols in this act of kindness. So attend to yourselves and attend to others, which is also an act of kindness to make sure they are safe, as well as you are safe, in whatever way, shape, or form is representative of the agreements you have made with the family of humanity. But do a kindness where you can. Help someone with something, out of the blue, as you say, unexpectedly, as you say. Give them something they need. Show them something they need. Be there for them in a way that they may need. Again, even the simplest act of helping a stranger in a safe way on little things that they don't expect will brighten their day, will make them feel more connected, even if it is somebody, and perhaps even more profoundly if it is somebody that you may philosophically disagree with. Do an act of kindness, because that goes beyond all